Good morning.
There we go. Now I'm off mute. I can't hear you either, Jackie. But good morning, everybody. It's good to be here with you guys. This is the weekly intake, a very casual, as you can already tell, weekly call that we're doing on LinkedIn. Actually, we don't do it weekly. I skipped last week because we went out of town, and so we're just playing it by ear. See what happens. All right, so we've got more people showing up here. Hold on, we've got David is showing up with us today. David, we cannot see you, so maybe turn on your camera and unmute so we could see you. And but anyway, it's good to have everybody here today. Oh, he left. All right, maybe we won't see David. But Jackie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Jackie Clayton. I have put my title as 3-time Jeremy coworker. So I have
That's a good one.
Unique distinction of being someone who has worked with Jeremy 3 times, which is really kind of frightening. But I've been focusing mostly on HR tech, connecting people who work for HR tech and practitioners to this space. So that's what I've been focusing most of my time on.
That is awesome. And yes, so Jackie and I worked together first at ERE Media, probably, I don't know, I started working there in 2013. And so I think it was probably around that time. And then again at Hiring Solved, and then again at Seek Out, and then many times just collaborating even when we weren't working together. So good to see you and welcome back. And then we've got David. Go ahead, David.
Hey, sorry, yeah, it's early here. Hey guys, so I know all of you already. This is awesome. So my name's David Nicola, and I am currently a customer success engineer at Proven Base. So we are helping customers get up and going, get their searches done, and just really kind of nerd out when it comes to all things sourcing. So super stoked. And
All right.
happy to be here.
Well, and so the reason David is in customer success at Proven Base is he's one of the better technical sourcers I've ever met. And so yeah, that's what he spent many years doing sourcing. I'll brag on him a little bit, but he's on the West Coast, and he basically has been, I don't know when we met, maybe 2010, early 2010 or 12, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
early, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, so he's always helped me, whether I was the editor at SourceCon or when I worked at a tech company. He's always been very insightful and kind of helped me stay connected to the practitioner community. So yes, he's in customer success right now, but he is deep down a practitioner, and I think always will be. So good to see you. And then Ravi, we're going to hear more from Ravi later. So Ravi, give us your just quick intro, and then we'll dive deeper in a bit.
Sure. Good to meet you all. Jackie, I heard a lot about you. I've seen you online, often on Humor or so on, those videos, funny videos, like coffee chat videos. So yeah, good to finally meet you. I know Jeremy and David, we talk often. So so I'm Ravi Tandra, CEO and founder of Proven Base. So we are I call ourselves as a talent acquisition platform. We do sourcing and talent intelligence within it. Happy to chat furthermore, dive deeper into it on some of the things that I think Jeremy is going to bring it up today. Happy to answer any questions or anything that I can share with the community in general. So.
Awesome. Well, good deal. So the format here, I just like to get like-minded professionals on, and others can hang out and watch and listen to us talk through some things that are going on. And by the way, he mentioned the Humoriso. What do you guys call it? What's your chat called?
It's but first coffee.
Which
is important because somebody said but first coffee. I was like, no, they're like, you have to put the comma in there. So it's but first, pause, coffee, not but first coffee.
And I will say that before John and Jackie, there was Jeremy and Jackie, and I've got lots of online evidence to prove that. So if John is watching, sorry, that's just factual, you know. But so all right, so I'm gonna go over some news here. All right, so the news that we're going to talk about this week. Now, I pulled together several articles. So these are not all from this week, but I've been doing a lot of research on AI interviewing. And when I say AI interviewing, I don't mean people using AI to cheat on interviews or people using AI to help them prepare for interviews. I'm talking about actual AI agents calling you and talking to you, right? And so there's a lot going on around that front. And I wanted to start the conversation just kind of setting the stage. Like, I think we're getting used to interacting with AI, especially the younger generations. And I was a little bit skeptical of AI interviewing. And I will say that I've been doing demos with a lot of them, and they really are starting to feel human. There's first off, you can choose your voice when you're setting it up. I had the stories I've heard so far, you know, one of them was like, watch, and it was, you know, Snoop Dogg, you know, doing, it was like, sound like Snoop Dogg. And so they were doing the whole Snoop Dogg thing. And then another one was, you know, you can kind of choose male or female or accent. So you can even get very regional, like if you're in Louisiana and you want to sound like a local, right? They'll even mimic a voice of a local. And in a funny story, there was an Indian staffing firm that said they wanted theirs to be done with an Indian voice because they didn't want to disappoint them when they actually started talking to a real person. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, that's interesting, right? Because it's weeding out the people who would find that frustrating, or but anyway, that was their choice. And I you know, so that's amazing first off. So it feels very authentic. I haven't come across one yet that doesn't feel like AI. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could tell it's a machine, but you also, they're kind of, hi, this is Jeremy and I am an artificial intelligence interviewer for said company. And then, you know what, you can have it, you could program an intro. So how funny to say, I'm an AI interviewer with said company. That's better than a black hole, right? You know, so the AI can even make you laugh, you know, and so I've been really impressed. I've demoed probably a dozen in the last 6 weeks, and there are glitches, right? So first conversation, why you are better off being interviewed by AI than a human. That is a Forbes article if you want to look that up. Why you're better talking to AI than a human. And so it's written May 25th by Tom Chamorro Prezumic. And so number one reason, bias, right? Like, AI can remove bias. Obviously, there's the debate on the human bias being introduced, but you can monitor it and you can correct it. And then you're not having to correct 200 hiring managers nationwide with their own opinions. You're having to correct one system that is then doing it. They can focus on relevant signals. These are the key points of the article that I'm pulling out. Learning, adaptation, and consistency. So as you're learning from what people are saying and how it's affecting things, you can adapt and it goes out at scale. Transparency, if these are built correctly. And something, Jackie, you and I, when we were at a former company, well, a couple of former companies, it was hard to illustrate why candidates were selected over others. Now these new models are incredibly transparent. There are studies that show candidates often prefer AI over humans, and then AI excels in structured assessments. And then the final note is human contact is still important, but should be later, right? So what's everybody's thoughts on this? First off, have you done one yet?
I'll jump in. I did one. working with just one company, and did both sides where I was the candidate and the interviewer. The challenge I have is people keep saying that the systems are not going to be biased or as biased as people. That's assuming that someone who's not biased actually built the model that they're using, and we haven't gotten to that point. And there's bias in what is non-biased enough in the platform. Like there's no standardization of going into the systems, and so it might be appealing to someone who's done this job before, but maybe a new hiring manager wants to tweak it a certain way, and it doesn't have the anticipation of what's going on within the world to make those changes. And so I think it's great, but I mean, I think, and I've worked with some, I thought the product that I worked was really good. But what got me nervous is that it didn't explain very well to me when I was a candidate how I was being evaluated. On the hiring manager side, it said it was going to give me a score. And at the time, I was trying to figure out, I got an alert and notification and I opened it. And the product said that I was more than likely deceptive because I was opening up tabs as I was going through the in the interview, and said that I was a fraudulent person. I recorded it, it'll be out. And I was like, it's called me, like told me that not that there could have been, it said I was deceptive. And so
wow, I've got it. Don't say it on this call, but I want to know what company, if you could.
You know, you shouldn't have invited me in. I said, Jeremy's gonna be in trouble inviting me in here.
No, I'm good. That's why we're here. Why we're here.
I'm a little bit concerned and wondering the bias behind it. And I also need, if I'm going to be doing that, then the product needs to say that they're not going to sell my information to anybody else, a little bit more clear, that they're not going to say that I'm deceptive to everybody else and all the other bots that I talk to.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That is insane. Was that recently?
Yeah, that was like a couple months ago.
I saw something earlier in the week about the interview giving the candidate the feedback, and I was like, that's a little bit risky. Like, we don't as humans disclose our judgments. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that to me is an interesting choice, that they would disclose it to everyone, because like it was your first one and you had that negative experience, and now that's, I don't know, how do you recover from that? And then what do you do if people start talking on Reddit about that? You know, how many of those conversations can you have going? What were you going to say, David?
I was just going to say, I think to a certain extent, maybe the thought is that hiding behind an AI is safer. So if I'm, and I've been on the receiving end, as a candidate, I've done a couple AI interviews, but didn't know it until I got on the call, number one. But number two, yeah, I think as far as candidate feedback goes, I throughout my whole experience have never like championed trying to give candidate feedback in the moment or resume feedback in the moment. So that's something that I kind of steer away from. So because it's a slippery slope and it's a no-win situation, right? But if your unbiased AI program is giving feedback and responses to a candidate as far as their performance goes in that interview, I mean, if I'm the candidate and I want to push back on that, or in any way, if I want to respond any way, I don't know if I can even do that, number one. And if I could, who would I go to? Like, how would I get around the AI gatekeeper to have that conversation, or to, in whatever context, whether positive or negative? If I disagree with the feedback, I can't do anything. If I agree and want more information about, okay, how do I improve and get better? How do I do that? You can't. So, and then for me as a candidate, having gone through AI interviews, I've done, I think, 3 in the last probably 6 months. And the biggest thing for me was interesting was that just how real, it's super scary how real everything is, right? As far as just conversational level. But I giggled inside because 2 of the 3 interviews, the AI system would coach me and tell me, now take some deep breaths. Let's just focus. Let's just, not getting too weird, but yeah, but just, just take a deep breath. We're here to learn more about you, and we know you've got great skills to offer. And I'm like thinking, what? It was weird. It was just weird. So, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I think we're all about the same age here ish, right? I'm old school Gen X, right? So I'm like, it was weird to even, number one, for me, my first AI interview, have that experience. And secondly, take instruction about how to feel from a bot. And just, I don't need to be coached. I'm a big boy. I dressed myself, I ate breakfast, and I'm ready to go. I don't need to be coached by a bot telling me to center myself or to relax. That's all good and well, but I didn't need that as a candidate. So that's just my response. But yeah, it's weird.
David's a big boy, but he is sitting among his baseball cards.
Yes, exactly.
Not one word. I did not say one word.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he's got his ball cap and his hoodie and his baseball cards.
That's right. That's right.
So, all right. So, Ravi, have you come across any of these?
I haven't personally come across any, but I have an interesting conversation recently. I went to Live for golf tournament, so I was invited to the broadcasting room. I was talking to the broadcaster there. I was asking, the guy first said, "What is it that you like AI to do?" And he was just basically tired of hearing AI. He's like, "I'm tired of this AI. I don't want AI, but it could be interesting for commentators to have a AI commentator." That was kind of a little bit for me. The first thing in general, it relates to what we're also talking here today for the interviews. So to me, the first reaction was the reason why these golf or any other games get so lively is because of the commentators, the emotion, the experience, right? So now
that's the only way golf gets lively.
Right. That is true. But then at the same time, if you're trying to impersonate with other people, voice wise, that kind of takes away the whole experience in general. So to me, there is a lot of compliance and legal, all kinds of issues. I'm not even going there. But the second issue is how is it going to make me as an audience feel better about it? Because you're taking away that human emotion, the really the personal touch. I get from there, the live experience. It's live, right? So putting AI, there is no live anymore. Even though you're saying live in this particular interview case, it's not live because it's a machine that is just basically, I mean, it's not a live person. I think that is part of the live means.
Yeah.
So
let me like jump in. I think that's a great point, right? So there's got to be like a positive and a negative, right? So I think, and total fail on my part for not getting other generations on this call. I think Ravi's the youngest in the room. The rest of us are pretty solid Gen X. And so, yeah, we should have had some younger perspectives on this. However, I went through, so I left my prior employer, JP Morgan, my last day was in May. I knew that was going to happen for about 45 days. So I started submitting resumes, and I think my number was 95 jobs I applied to. I haven't had any interviews, and I haven't had much contact. I've had automated rejections, but really nothing's happened. And so the workflows that I'm seeing for these, and so you can imagine jobs go up, they get 300 applicants, and then you're just kind of lost in it, right? What I'm seeing with these AI interview platforms is they're opening jobs. The minute someone applies, they're getting a text, they're doing an interview, it's getting scored. Once there are enough people to have a slate of candidates, so say that number is set at 4 or 5, once there are 4 or 5 who score above a certain threshold, the job's being unposted, and everyone who applied knows they got a shot, right? And so, yes, it's not quite as cool as a human to me and my generation. However, if I got a shot, that would have felt better than every other experience I had a couple of months ago, right? And so that to me is kind of whether or not that was a good shot is totally different. Jackie, I think your point is well received. So all right, so there are some, I don't know, I see a lot of people being really bullish about it, and then I see other people shying away. So recently it went viral. The Red Sox were doing AI interviews. And I was like, well, that's cool. The Red Sox are doing AI interviews. So I started reading about it, and people were talking about, I got interviewed for a front office position at the Red Sox using AI. And so I'm like, cool, the Red Sox are on it, right? And then the Red Sox came out 24 hours later, and they're like, no, it was HireVue. So it was basically an asynchronous recorded interview, not AI, right? And so they wanted everyone to know that they're not using AI. That would not be cool. They're using HireVue asynchronous interviewing, right? And which to me, HireVue is very respected, but and the funniest thing is HireVue's, I'm sure if you ask them, it's on the roadmap, that they're going to have an AI interviewing platform soon. They're just not there yet. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I was proud of them for doing it, and then they released a clarification. We're not doing that, So anyway, any other comments on that topic before I move on to some other things?
Yeah, how are you going to gloss over and say HireVue is really respected? No, they're not, because of the one-way interview. They're not respected, and they've had a problem with this biases since the first HireVue, since they first came out a million years ago in Utah. With their product, people were complaining, and they've gotten dinged before. Like
that. Well, and so when I say they've had problems and they've survived, which, you know what I'm saying? So legally, they're probably like, because you've got new companies that are doing the AI interviewing that have not been through. You and I have been with companies that have been sued. And the care that those companies take once that happens is big, right? So I agree with you that they've had a lot of negative press. However, they've survived under scrutiny, which,
But I want them to say something. Like, the thing is that as soon as that comes out, if I know that they're a client, it's like, let's talk a little bit more about it. Like, it's an opportunity. They missed a learning opportunity there. And so that's what I mean by saying, it would have been great for them to come out and say, listen, we've been down this road before. We've already proven ourselves. We know why people are still utilizing this. This is why Red Sox is smart for doing this. You should be doing this too. I'm so excited that it got that good, because people used to challenge us with blah, 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 blah. Maybe they need a new comms person. Like, that was a full missed opportunity.
No, I agree.
For them to be able to do that. And it was a real learning curve for other people who are using that. But it also goes back to, perception is everything. And deploying AI without context is really important. And it kind of leads into what we just talked about with the other thing. If you're not sure what it's doing, how it's scoring, how you're being evaluated, being in the New York Post is not an exciting moment to have that. I mean, you can get that on your own. No. It's on my top 10 pictures is being in the New York Post.
This is a really boring question, but I know that you always have looked at AI algorithm ethics.
Yeah.
Right. So what about the third-party evaluations that people are asking, the third-party bias audits? Do you know much about that at this point?
Yes. A New York 144. I've been digging deep on those. The thing that's interesting, it's not really boring. It's actually kind of exciting, is that they're trying to get you to say that you've been through an audit process, but they have allowed you to opt out. That's what's interesting about the third party.
My question of kind of where I was going for this, like, okay, so you've been through a third-party bias audit. Nobody has really defined what that is yet, right? So you and I could open a company tomorrow and say we do third-party bias audits, and Ravi could put it on his website that he went through our third-party bias audit, right? I mean, am I wrong in saying that it hasn't really been defined what that means yet?
No, and you can do that, and that's the thing that's so important to remember. You're still going to be held accountable, even if you went through a third-party auditing system as an organization. It doesn't alleviate you from whatever the disparate impact is. But the part where I wanted to let people know is that it also allows you to opt out on a certain parameters. And so everybody, there's a glitch in the system, which is allowing people to not be transparent with the third-party. They still haven't gotten it right, but it'll be interesting. I think we'll have more impact from the EU AI regulations that are coming down, or being really more specific than we're seeing here in the states, but they're trying to evaluate it. There was over 400 bills that were introduced into Congress on how to regulate AI and hiring decisions. So stay tuned. You're going to be busy with that if you're going to have news.
There is
Robbie, have you been? I was going to go to you now because I know you probably are. You getting hit up by a bunch of these organizations that do third-party bias audits?
No, organizations are hitting me, but as far as the companies goes, organizations are interested in getting like a responsible, how AI is being implemented in the company. That's kind of most of the questions we get. But in general, not everyone is also asking. But companies that are selling the third-party AI bias, they constantly, reach out to see. But currently, not much actually. Previously, a few months back, it was, but currently, for obvious reasons, I think people are not reaching out because they don't. I think it's not as important as it was before. Again, it may be another topic that we may need to get into, which I'm trying to not to. But
I think Jackie would go. You could bait Jackie probably very easily there.
Absolutely.
No, I think Jackie probably
jump right in it.
Right. But in general, what I also want to bring up to you all here is, so for example, a simple thing, when you do a search in any platform, since we're all related to HR, so when you get the results, one of the things I see often is if you have, let's say a 70% of one category agents qualify for a particular role that you're looking for, and 20% white, 5% Asian, 5% Black, African, or Hispanic qualify for a particular role, and your results are as such for the landscape. My thing is, what are we doing in order to make sure everyone is getting a fair opportunity from page one of the search results? Because these are all qualified candidates instead of showing just one category of candidates, right? Mm-hmm. Because traditionally speaking, that's what being one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, right? So it's not about that to me is a bias, right? So there is an ethical approach there, whatever you want to call it, as ethical AI. So to me, that is something we are trying to achieve even now, whether we need to get audited or we have to check a box. But in general, our approach has been like that to make sure that everyone is fairly represented. I think that's the first and foremost thing any platform should be doing in general, to be just want to add that point. Then we can talk about other things, but what are we doing in terms of, okay, you have all these qualified candidates, but how are we representing them?
Yeah, for sure.
Effort, so
I love that, Robbie. Now let me jump in. Okay, so there's some really funny viral AI interview things if you want to get on TikTok and find them. There's one where it just starts repeating Pilates bar, Pilates bar, Pilates bar, and it does it 14 times. It's pretty funny. And then the other glitches that I'll see are, it'll just kind of start. You remember back in the early 2000s, we called it buffering. It'll just start buffering, and so people will have funny videos of them, and they'll be all dressed up for an interview, and the AI will be doing weird things. And so I think we obviously have to get through that. I don't know that we can hold the companies accountable. That's probably more of an issue of the systems that the data is running through, not the programming from the company, right? That could be somewhere on the communication channels that is causing that. But yeah, it is going to take some getting used to for people. One other comment I wanted to make. So David Manister at ERE has returned to writing. So he has, if you guys read ERE.net, David is the founder. For many years he didn't write, but he has returned to writing, and it reminds me of why he must have started ERE in the first place. He's a great writer. He's having some really good observations, but one of the articles that was posted this week was Inside Fortune Brands Talent-Led Transformation, right? And so the interesting thing about this is we've got AI. I hear a lot of organizations, yeah, we have demand, but we don't want to hire it because AI is going to do it all next year. We need to figure out what we're going to do with AI before we hire more recruiters, okay? And then we've got people getting laid off because of AI. And then this article, Inside Fortune Brands Talent-Led Transformation on ERE, it was posted June 19th, talks about how Fortune Brands is mandating return to office, and they're assuming a very large percentage is not going to do it, right? So what does that mean? That means recruiting has lots of work to do And I'm sure they're all celebrating. Oh, awesome. We have 75% of our company isn't going to move to this place. And so now we all have jobs for the next 2 years while we backfill all these people who are refusing to move. So we've all been complaining about return to office, but it might be the only thing to save you if you are a recruiter and your company is evaluating AI. So anyway, kind of an ironic post. We may become the biggest fans of return to office mandates. What do you guys think?
Well, return to office in the context of everyone else except recruiting. I'm on board for that. That'd be great.
That's perfect. But that's the other thing is like the good recruiters in this whole movement, they'll probably have to use contract recruiters to get all the right people to move to the office.
That's so ironic.
So anyway, yeah. So
anyway, I've been in Santa Barbara this past week, recording at LinkedIn. But I've worked at home for over 15 years. I had overnight oats for the first time, so I might go back to the office.
Yeah.
Before.
Were you at a LinkedIn office or some media place?
LinkedIn, it's in LinkedIn Learning office. I would gain all of my weight, but I was like, I don't know how there was food everywhere. So I was like, this could be exciting. I'm, like you said,
if you got to live in Goleta or Santa Barbara.
Fully.
Yeah, Goleta, Santa Barbara.
Fully relocate if they get a housing stipend to anywhere in California. Let me just
Santa Barbara is probably one of the cooler places. You're not too far from there, are you, David?
I'm about an hour north of you, Jackie. San Luis Obispo.
That's close enough. I'll move in with David.
There we go.
Pay for me and talk.
If anybody at LinkedIn Learning needs somebody to record some training and they don't want to have to fly them in, David's an hour north.
There we go.
So look David up. Well, very cool. Well, Jackie, I congratulate you on doing LinkedIn Learning training. Given our past employers, they must really like you.
Heck of a story.
yeah, given the things we've been through with them. All right, so I want to flip the script a little bit. Ravi is the founder of Proven Base. Full disclosure, my name's Jeremy Roberts. I work at Heiser Talent, and Ravi is one of my clients. So I work with Ravi on customer success and go-to-market strategy and all the things. So Ravi is the founder of Proven Base. So I wanted to give Ravi a chance to kind of share what Proven Base is doing and show the product. The first thing, and I think this is why on a practitioner-led call, I feel comfortable having Ravi. Ravi is very kind and generous and gives back. One thing that Proven Base is doing is any recruiters or sourcers who are between jobs, he will give you free access to help with your job search. And I thought that was a great gesture. And by the way, if you take that access, you get trained by David. And so you get to hang out with David and Ravi. All right. It's
a win-win. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. So Ravi, thank you for giving back to the community that you are creating product for. So tell us, Ravi, what Proven Base is and kind of what you guys are doing.
Sure. Thank you, Jeremy, for having me. So one of the things that what we are doing is, as you all know, sourcing in general. So I'm not going to get to the basics of sourcing because you guys are all experts here. But what I'm going to tell is how we are differentiating, how we are approaching in general, given the times we are in. One is definitely giving back to the community is one of the core missions of Proven Base, because we all need to support each other. I think that's the only way we can all succeed. With that being said, the way we are thinking about sourcing is the old ways, the traditional ways, how everyone was doing is not going to be enough anymore. So we have to look at ways how we can really push the envelope a little and try to go after, sources that are not traditionally, that is not traditional. So what I mean by that is, so we are actually on Monday, we're launching our new product capability called Deep Search. So basically what it does is it goes beyond your traditional sources and get the candidates from thousands of sources. It creates candidates for you, to be very precise. on the fly from the internet based on whatever maybe you may be looking at. You may be looking at a veterinarian. You may be looking at a rocket scientist. You may be looking at a whatever, whatever you may be you're looking at, as long as you're out there somewhere. So we go out and get the candidates and create it for you. So what it does for you is it answers a lot of questions. It also helps recruiters or sourcers to on traditional sources, you may be reaching out 30% of the candidates. So which means 70% of the candidates are somewhere else out there. Maybe they're writing blogs, they have their own websites, they have their own other information. They probably are not updating the traditional sources as much as the work they are doing because they're busy doing other things, but they may be updating the blog. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to go find that information of this person and add to what you have, number one. Number two is a lot of people may not be on these sources that you're traditionally used to. So we're going after that sources as well and creating this new profiles for you. What with that, what happens is, one, what happens when I exhaust my search? What happened? Where do you get the data from? What are the sources you're using?
Ravi, hold on one sec for me. David, are you able to share your screen and log in real quick to Proven Base?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, while Ravi, I don't want to distract Ravi with Ravi doing it, but I want to jump in because Jackie and I have a really long history in what I still call the people aggregator space. I do think that term, I'm the only one still saying it. So sorry, I haven't evolved completely yet, but people aggregator space. So what is that for people catching you up? If you look at like the sourcing data as a tall building, Jackie remembers this conversation. You've got the ground floor is the ATS, second floor is your company's CRM. The ground floor, everybody will reply to you. They all gave you their mobile numbers. They're all interested in your company because they've applied in the past, right? The CRM, those are people you've nurtured. They may be from your ATS. You're nurturing them. It's got a decent response rate. The third floor is going to be LinkedIn. It's a necessary evil for all of us, right? You really can't operate without it anymore. You might get like a 30% response rate from LinkedIn candidates. And then the next layer up is, I used to say job boards, but Monster and Career Builder are laying everyone off, and I don't know what's happening to job boards, right? But that next layer, and those are people who like, they got annoyed with their boss over the weekend. They got sad on Sunday thinking about their boss on Monday morning, and they uploaded their resume. So you have a high response rate there, right? But you don't always find the people you need in those first 3 or 4 floors. Right. So then what do? You go start doing manual searches of the internet. So the people aggregator space has historically said, we're bringing all this data in and we're going to give it to you. Now, what actually happens, I think all of you know, is all of these companies buy the 600 million LinkedIn profiles from someone like People Data Labs, and they put them in there and you're searching data you already have again. Right. But now, I mean, the good thing is you can get about 70% of their email addresses. Right. And so this is where the people aggregator space is delivering. OK, so if I had to say the one thing that Ravi and Proven Base are trying to do that is beyond that is going to be deep search. Now, David, if you could jump into deep search real quick.
Yeah.
And let me show everybody what I'm talking about. Right. So when you go into most people aggregators, you're going to see what you've already seen. You're going to see the LinkedIn profiles, and they might have added GitHub, Stack Overflow, and a Facebook link.
Actually,
right?
Sorry, Jeremy, I can share the screen, David. I have a couple.
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
Oh, if you've got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you've got one ready to go, what I want to show Ravi is like most people aggregators. You get to the end of that list, right? And so Ravi's got the data that most of you already have access to. Now I'm going to add that to the stage. There you go. All right. And so if I could talk real quick, Ravi, so you just do a search right there. So let's say you looked at everybody that fits your criteria in Proven Base, which is going to be a real similar data set to what your other people aggregators have. And you're like, that's not enough. I need more. Now come down and do a deep search. So there's the sourcing lab. It looks like others that you may have seen.
Right.
So once you've exhausted the sourcing lab, then you can move on to deep search. Now, deep search is going to be really valuable for a lot of things, but especially like healthcare and veterinarians, people who may not get on LinkedIn, right? And so if you look, let's pick one of these, that data engineer in Denver. All right, so you'll see it found 176 new candidates. It did 3,128 different searches. It used 572 different resources, and then it analyzed 3,200 web pages. And you could see the websites where it ended up pulling the most candidates from. Right, so it's like the people aggregators you may have used. However, you can, at the end of it, you could say, that's not enough, do more, go deeper. So.
Yep. So essentially what it is doing, as Jeremy's saying, is it instantly finding, when I say instantly, it takes time, like, a few minutes. For a typical sourcer, it may take like a couple of days, but what it does is, or a day maybe, this goes and does these searches and gives you the candidates within a few minutes here, typically 7 to 10 minutes. And it finds, crawls, create profiles, maps. So it does all the things behind the scenes and gets you the data like this. So everything is interactive. So essentially, it's a dynamic database, what we're building here. It's also a white box solution. There is nothing we are hiding. Everything is transparent here. We show where we are pulling it from, what we are getting out of it. So that's the beauty of it, right? So recently I was looking for a veterinarian in Rockwall, Texas. So what it did is, within 5 minutes and 15 seconds, I was able to get 472 candidates, out of which 147 are matched, 138 partially matched here. It went through 2,628 web pages and give me the results. The results looks like this. So these are all the different sites it went to. These are all the different relevancies I have. So if you look at
go
here,
up and look at, let's zoom in on those sites, Robbie, real quick. I just want to show that how it's actually crawling. It's Colleen Vet Clinic, VCA Hospitals, City Vet, right? So it's actually crawling. So it's doing more of the manual sourcing work. I think a lot of times a good sourcer, they're wanting to look at speakers from conferences. Veterinarians are on the local vet pages, but they're going through Google to do it, right? This is actually automating all of that for you, which is a nice next step.
Yeah, it shows what we have existing, what is new. So it's like you're always getting new candidates here. So that's the beauty of it. And you can do your search here. You can put a relevancy, how close you want it to be. You can include domains, exclude domains. So a lot of flexibility there. And also you can enter names that you want to find, additional information on a person that you would like to see what else is there, journals, publications, anything else I have written. So it goes beyond, and literally it goes after thousands of sources and gets you the candidates that you're interested in. So that's deep search for you. That's kind of
Robbie, if I could summarize real quick, right? We just showed you kind of the new thing. The one thing that I want to make sure everybody's clear on is all of the assumed functionality is there. It's North America based. It's got 200 million plus candidates. It gives you email addresses. They have drip campaign functionality. They can connect to your Outlook or your Gmail, right? So they've got all of those things that are kind of assumed functionality of the players in the space. What I really wanted Robbie to show today is what they have that is well beyond that.
Yep. Yeah, we have all the other things, the smart search capabilities, conversational searches. We have very unique things within that also. Obviously, in the interest of time, I'm not going to show a lot of those today, but I think the new and upcoming, that is a huge benefit to the community, is the deep search, how we are redefining the sourcing from the traditional approaches that we are all used to.
Yeah, I'm gonna call Jackie out. What are you seeing, Jackie? What questions you got?
I'm just wondering how much people are taking the time to look at any of the aggregate data when we're going so fast. And I'm wondering if I'm one that's working on this piece, like that's really overwhelming. And so like, I want to get to the ones that I need to call. Like, how does it sort those? And I also think about the people that I want to be able, are the top candidates, or is it the top candidates with full profiles? That's always the question, where it's like, these become the top because we know their information is all like current, versus they're the best candidates. And can I put a measurement there so that I can change the things that are important to me as an organization? So that's what I am wondering.
Real quick, let me give an initial answer before we go to Ravi. So I think I'd love to know what Ravi's answer to that question is within the full database. And the full database are richer profiles. Now, what you're going to see with the deep search, it's the people who don't hit that full database. So I would say it's harder to say who is actually more qualified. What this is really good for is these are people who are not in the database, probably because their profile is not as full. Right. And so you're right. These people you would need to. And one of the things that I'm going to go ahead and call out is I think AI interviewing with this level of data is going to be a whole new frontier. Do you know what I'm saying? Because what would take us so much time to craft so many messages for and to send out there is so. I saw one AI interview thing the other day. There were 87 candidates, and they sent 600 messages, made 200 calls, and interviewed like 35 of them in the first day. You know what I'm saying? Like the AI interview. So yeah, this data partnered with those systems is going to be insane. But I do think that you're right on the deep search. Oftentimes, it will require actual vetting with the candidate to kind of know who ranks where. Ravi, what's your technical answer to that question? Because mine was more philosophical.
No, in general, I think, if I'm understanding Jackie's question correctly, so it's like, you're already overwhelmed with a lot of data, and how can we are doing things fast. How can it get to it when you have, all this information, right? So I think the way we are trying to approach that is, I was on a call, in a session with Pete Radloff. I'm sure you probably know him. So one of the things he said is, we are going after the same type of data, every one of us, that we get on these sources that we use traditionally. And the problem is, they may not even care about to respond because it's the same messages. So what if I have that weird one data point that I may not, I may reach out to them. Like, for example, someone was saying, I was found an article about this guy doing a SWAT fight. He is really interested in that particular skill. So the guy was able to connect on that particular topic, and he got a quick response when he actually reached out to the person with that particular topic. So having that unique data point access can make a big difference. That's one of the ways to think about it. The second thing is also, for example, if you look at this particular profile, this one, they have like a remote area. They're trying to search for a certified surgical technologist. They couldn't find many people. There are like 3 or 4 people available. So having this, this person is, for example, not on LinkedIn. So there is a unique place that they were able to find this person and go to, this particular site, and they were able to get this additional information on this person. There is a, blog about this person, right? So this does the work that, you probably did not thought about it, that probably, goes beyond the usual means that you may be going after. Yeah, I mean, it may not be meant for every single person, every single skill, but, it also gives you that edge, that uniqueness for you to really see what else I can do in order, as you're going fast, but also how effective I can be while I'm doing that, how many responses I can get, right?
Now we're all going to be trying to figure out what this person actually does now. That's an interesting profile. So, Ravi, that's a great answer. Any other observations from Jackie? I'm not asking David because David works for Proven Base. So
no, I think we're going to be getting. I think it'll be interesting because speed is going to have everything to do with it, and we're going to be transitioning from candidate experience and trying to do like speed and conversation. And I think it'll be interesting how we go through all of these candidates. I don't see how you can do it without AI. I don't see how you can.
Yeah, and I will say, like, one thing that I am really impressed with what Ravi's done. he didn't mention it today, but there's a lot of DEI focus within the product, right? And political climate has changed, and I think what people want from diversity, equity, inclusion is still kind of to be determined from these products, right? I think there's some stuff going on, but I am proud of the work that Ravi has done there. And I do think, Jackie, it would be good for you two to connect at some point, right? To kind of validate, like, there's so much that he's done that needs to live on. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what's most valuable from that work, and how do we continue to kind of do that, you know, as laws and the climate is evolving. So I do think that would be a good side conversation for you guys to have at some point, is kind of help him look at that and make sense of it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely love to have conversation and see what you think, Jackie, furthermore on all the different things.
No, you've got a cup of coffee. I'm good.
Well, I first off, I want to thank all of you guys. Jackie's always a shot of energy. She gave me a warning yesterday. She said, Jeremy, I just got back from California, so I'm going to be really groggy. And I said, oh, groggy Jackie is a normal person, right? And so yeah. So you did not seem groggy. You are still above normal person energy, Jackie. So by the way, say hi to Todd. I got a funny text from Todd this morning. He said, Todd and I's relationship is, you know, people say that they have a work wife or a work husband. Jackie and I have always thought that was kind of a gross sounding thing. So we've always said sister and brother. And so Todd is like that guy dating my sister who sends me funny TikToks. You know what I'm saying? So like Todd and I send funny TikToks for about 2 years, and then we see each other in person and we're really good. You know, we would be really good friends if we lived in the same place, right? But so yeah, Todd and I were just interacting this morning. So but anyway, so thank you, Jackie, for joining. Thank you, Ravi, for taking time to show everybody some of the new things Proven Base is doing. And then David, thank you as always for joining. And I want to remind everybody, if you are a sourcer or recruiter between jobs, reach out, and you know, it'll help you. The one piece of advice I would give, when I knew I was transitioning out of my last role, I started looking for a job and I couldn't find a job. So I had to flip the script and call people and say, what problems are you trying to solve? And do you have any money? Right? Because people have problems and they have budget. That might be a contract role. It might be some money they saved by canceling a technology they weren't using, right? There are places in the budget. And then they'll say, I have this many $1,000s. And you're like, that'll get you 6 weeks. And that's 6 weeks you don't have to use your severance or your savings, right? So my encouragement to everybody looking for employment right now is stop looking for jobs and start finding problems and money, because that's really what you need. And what Ravi's offering is a system that will give you the names and the contact details that you need to have that conversation, instead of chasing jobs that don't exist and applying to black holes. All right.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you all for joining today, and we will see you all soon.
See you. Thank you.
I had to leave it going just for Jackie there, the dance.